Welcome to Triple Play Fantasy Saturday night's main event. What does that mean? It means that we are here for DFS Chalk Talk Week 3. On top of me, which is always preferred, I have my man to the northwest, Dirty Jobs 21. Mikey, how are we tonight?
Doing fantastic, man. Doing fantastic. How are we doing, Joe?
I was thinking about the experience that you have. Like, I consider myself a pretty experienced fantasy football player, but in case you don't know, this guy has worked for Sleeper Wire. This guy has worked for, the experience that this man brings from a fantasy football podcasting perspective is second to none. And to the northeast of me, I have my man, 2 tickets to fantasy, Jeffrey Allen Mesha. How are we tonight?
Hey, man, as always, Saturday night, time to get out of that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans, my friend. I'm ready to roll. Let's do this.
And we are ready. Let's talk some DFS.
Excellent.
At Trip Play Fantasy on X, or Triple Play Fantasy on YouTube. And, I'm just thinking about week 2 and had a pretty good week 2. For whatever reason, from a DFS perspective, and I'd love to hear what other people think that are listening, like I have so much more luck with like the primetime slates or like those 2 or 3 game slates or even like the 4 p.m. slate that's maybe 4 games. I feel so much more in control than when we do the classic full slate. But I have to say, 2 weeks in, I am 2 for 2 on cashing internies on the classic. So that's been good. And Anthony Richardson was one of my quarterbacks last week, and he went out with a concussion, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns prior to that. So we had a pretty good game. But I feel like week 3, and now that groove's starting to set in. When I went to make my lineup today, it didn't take quite as much time as it did the first 2 weeks. And I felt like right off the bat, I had a core group that I had in my head that I was going to build around. I don't know how it's feeling for you guys 2 weeks in now.
So certainly last week, actually, especially if you listen to the Blitz on Sunday, I think we absolutely rolled it. Before we get into that, there's a couple things from week 2 that I want to bring up. First of all, the injury to Nick Chubb, seemingly a stagnant guy, one of the most well-respected, one of the greatest running backs of this age. I feel terrible for this guy. I know, Mike, you have him in a bunch of your leagues. To see this guy go down is just it's almost, I hate to use the word tragic, but it's just flat out terrible to see for a guy who's such a nice guy.
Very true, but there was good news reported about an hour ago. It's been reported that, come to find out, they think he's only torn the MCL, which I don't know what the fuck that means, but whatever. He's only torn the MCL. They don't believe it's career threatening anymore as they did previously. And one report, and I don't know if it was Schefter or who it was, but said 6 to 8 months. So it's not as bad as I guess it looked originally. But I agree with you. Very well respected man. And just, as consistent as you can be in the running back position. What do you think, Mikey?
Yeah. Like I was telling Jeff before the show, I have 27 dynasty leagues that I'm in. And in those 27 leagues, 24 of those I had Nick Chubb. And that's how much of a believer I am in that guy. I got him in every single league I possibly could.
And he's not even a PPR guy, and he's still worth it.
Exactly, dude. He's always going to give you that 100 yards. He's always usually going to get you that touchdown. Mr. Consistent at its finest, and it's good consistent, too. I'll even take him over C-Mac in most cases, even though C-Mac's been lighting it up this year. But I still just love the Chubb. And then I also, it's funny because another guy that's in like every single one of those other leagues is Cooper Kupp. Those are my 2 guys, is Chubb and Kupp. And it is not a good year for Chubb and Kupp, but that's okay. Next year he'll be back. He'll be ready. He's versatile. That's what Nick Chubb does.
And Joe, the other thing I wanted to bring up quickly before we get into the DFS lineups and everything else is I'm astounded that I have to bring this up. And we talked a little bit via text and offline about the Alexander Madison kind of DMs that he got after the last game. I get it if the guy ruined your fantasy week and perhaps he didn't have the best week as far as a running back is concerned. he's better at his job than most people are at their job. Okay, the fact that he gets paid millions of dollars is flat out irrelevant because obviously there's supply and demand, and the guy does the job and gets paid for what they think he's worth. To see the bullshit that was spewed at this guy via DM, and I don't know if you saw this, but you can all look it up, via Google or whatever. It's absolutely disgusting to me. And the fact that we're discussing this in 2023, I think is outrageous. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the comments that he got over some of the fumbles and everything else, but it absolutely made me want to vomit, and it made me embarrassed for the idiots that wrote this crap to him. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
Yeah, I saw that as well. The thing that really stuck out to me there was, I mean, first off, what are you doing messaging a goddamn player after, you don't do that in the first place, because it's not like they give a shit about your fantasy team, as they shouldn't. They got their own lives to worry about. I mean, this is supposed to be out here for fun, and I understand that there's a lot of money at stake and things like that, but none of that is entirely acceptable. And then to add in the things that were said to him, just the very fact that he did it in the first place is wrong. He should have never even gone that far. That to me screams that this man probably needs some help, or these people need some serious help. The fact that they're even doing that in the first place, then you add in the race thing, and it makes it so disgusting. And like I said, these people, my goodness, go seek help, please. Go find some kind of an outlet for that kind of stress and that kind of hate, because man, it's got to be killing you harder than it's killing anybody else that has to read that spewed crap.
Yeah, it's still around in 2023. I mean, I know Major League Baseball has had numerous situations in the last couple of years where outfielders have been, spewed some hate from the stands, and it's gone over the line from a race perspective. We've seen it in hockey recently. It's just one of those crazy things where 2023, right? Like, yeah.
It's just unfortunate. I apologize for bringing things up here on a bad note to start, or at least just not a positive note. But hopefully everybody can kind of just see this, learn from it. Let's move forward and just get a little bit more perspective in the fact that this is a football player who deserves what he gets paid. Number one. Number two, whatever the hell you got to say, he doesn't show up at your job when you underperform and tell you what kind of racist crap that you're spewing at him. So in any case, having said that, Joe, let's kick us off and we can go into the DFS lines for the week.
I really want to get Alexander Madison to this guy's workplace now. Like let's go. First off, I want to see him say these things to Alexander Madison's face, because he's not the biggest running back in the NFL, but the smallest guy in the NFL is probably 7 of us combined right here. So, dude, there's no way. I always love the tough keyboard people, and then when they get to meet these people in real life, and they're like, holy crap, man, what did I do?
That's like the Seinfeld episode where he went down and booed that woman at her job because she heckled him at work. So, Madison, whoever this guy is, figure this out and go to his job and just heckle the crap out of him. Anyways, go ahead, Joe.
There, Alexander Madison, I will drive you there. Let me know.
And it's only been 2 weeks, and one of the weeks they played the Eagles. Like, give them a few weeks to, the guy's proven to be really good when he's replaced Dalvin Cook in the lineup historically. I know now they've traded for Cam Akers, and that's going to muddy the water from a touch perspective. But let's give the guy a few weeks here. 2 weeks, but the fantasy community,
2 of the top 3 defenses, three rush defenses in the league. Like, what do you want from the man?
Exactly,
my God.
Exactly. But all right, week 3. See, we've got it all now. We've got injuries, we've got surprise performances, we have disappointing performances, all the different recipes that go into the pot to make these lineups now. So let's start with the top of the heap. Who are we paying for this week, Mikey? Who are you paying for this week? Quarterback, running back, wide out. What do you got?
I'm definitely paying up for a quarterback. I'm paying up for Justin Herbert. I think that this guy is going to be doing some serious damage this week at Minnesota. Me and Jeff were talking about it ahead of the show while we were waiting for your darn computer to catch up with the game and everything like that. Anyway, we just want every single piece of the puzzle we can with this matchup, because it should be a lot of points scored right there. Another guy I paid up for too was Stephon Diggs. I think at Washington, I think we see Stephon Diggs finally make his well-known, like persona that he always is, the touchdown guy. I think we see it happen this week. Those are my two guys.
Jeffrey.
So jumping off of what Mike just said about the Chargers Minnesota game, that's far and beyond has the highest over-under of the week. So Mike's taking one aspect of that with the Chargers side of it. I'm actually taking the other. In any case, we'll get into that stack lineup when we go into our lineups. But as far as who I'm paying up for, I'm going Tyreek Hill. He's at home versus Denver, 9,600. I get it. He didn't have the greatest of weeks versus New England last week, but the bottom line is the guy hates New England. He hates playing in New England, which he obviously spoke about after the game, and the fact that he hates the Patriots fans that much. And there's a lot of vitriol in that game. He's going back home. He's playing Denver. I get it. He's 9,600, but this guy has been probably the essence of consistency. He's there with Justin Jefferson, but the bottom line is that Tyreek Hill gets in the end zone. Justin Jefferson gets a ton of yards. He'll get 11 receptions for 150 yards, but Tyreek Hill will get in the end zone once or twice. So I have to think he's getting back in the end zone. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets over 150 yards again at home versus Denver. So I'm paying 9,600 and paying up for him. As far as paying up for anybody else, if you want to call this a pay up, I'm looking at Kirk Cousins at home versus the Chargers. He's 7,800. I mean, this guy has been the essence of consistency, period. I know 7,800 isn't exactly paying up on FanDuel, but with that over-under of 54 and the stack I got going on as far as that's concerned, Kirk Cousins, not a stretch at all. And he's actually a little bit less than Justin Herbert. So I'm going Kirk Cousins, 7,800 at home versus the Chargers.
I like it, and I love it because I'm all about Justin Herbert this week too. I mean, no Eckler, and Kelly didn't do much last week. They got to throw the ball, and I don't feel like you're going to see a lot of the rushing touchdowns being taken away from his drive. So and it's going to be a high scoring game. We know it. Yeah, and I would go Cousins too. DraftKings, and we were talking about this. DraftKings has a super flex classic lineup that you can also do, as well as their standard, which we always talk standard lineups. And then in the super flex, I was going Cousins and Herbert. And I mean, it just feels like that's a slam dunk. It's really funny though. And then I've got Bijan Robinson this week. DraftKings, he's 7,800 at Detroit. From an eye test alone, it's hard to resist him. And then the stats are there too: 124 yards last week, 40 rushing, 48 receiving. He got in the end zone week 1 receiving. You worry about the touchdowns with him, but as long as you're in a league where you got some PPR going on, you get a 100-yard bonus or whatnot, which most of the DFS platforms do have. I like Bijan Robinson, but it's really funny though. I feel like, and I learn something from you guys every week, and it's already happening now. Like I thought about obviously the Charger Minnesota game being the highest scoring game of the week, but in my main classic lineup, I didn't pay up for a wideout, and I'm thinking about it, and it's like, man, shit, even if it's Keenan Allen, because again, they're going to throw all over the place this week. But like from a Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, in my super flex, I went Tyreek Hill. In my classic on DraftKings is tough salary wise. You pay 75 for Herbert, you pay 78 for Bijan Robinson, and then the rest of your lineup is a little bit on the cheaper side. So didn't pay up for a wideout, but absolutely agree whether it's Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill this week. I expect both of them to have big games. So let's go the opposite end of the spectrum, and we will start with Jeff on this one. The diamond in the rough. Who are you? Where's your value coming from this week?
Bargain wise, what I'm looking at is unfortunately piggybacking off of the Nick Chubb injury. Now Cleveland has Kareem Hunt back. I don't think he's going to slide right into the offense immediately like he kind of used to be. But so you got Jerome Ford there who picked up the slack last week. He had 16 carries, 106 yards. He had 3 receptions, 25 yards, and a touchdown. The guy, he came in and he stuck out pretty well. And they're at home versus Tennessee. Tennessee's got a halfway decent rush defense, but I have to think that this guy Well, there you go. So, but I have to think this guy is still going to get either some touches and or targets out of the backfield. And at only 5,600 on FanDuel, it was hard for me to stay away from a guy like him, especially when you're paying up for Tyreek Hill at 9,600 or a couple other guys. So Jerome Ford at home versus Tennessee, 5,600. I think that's my bargain bin kind of guy, so to speak, this week.
I don't remember what 18 character it was, but the guy who said, "I love it when a plan comes together." It's the same as we were there with quarterback, and I'm there. It was same with you, Jerome Ford, 4,800 on DraftKings. A little worried about the matchup. Maybe not naive to think he'll go 16 for 120, whatever, but I do expect him to get in the end zone. And I do expect him to get a lion's share of the carry over Hunt as he gets reacclimated. And then real quick, I'll talk. Well, I'll say this. Hunter Henry is only 4,100 on DraftKings for tight end. The guys had 16 and 17 points, respectively, 56, 52 yards and a touchdown each week so far for the Patriots. I feel like that's a good buy. And then I wanted to throw this thing at you, talking about not paying up for a wideout this week, which I didn't, which I'm rethinking to an extent, and I did in my super flex, but I want to get your thoughts because on these, my three wideouts on my classic lineup right now are, and I'll start with the most expensive. Zay Flowers, 5,400. No Beckham this week. Nico Collins, 5,300. Guys averaging 22 points a week so far. And Cortland Sutton, 5,100. They're playing at Miami. I mean, he's had 2 double-digit games so far. And I mean, at Miami, they're going to be throwing the ball all over the place in the second half when they're down double digits. What do you think about those? That trio, Mikey? And then
I like
hit
it.
me with
I
your
like it a
value
lot.
too.
I think that's a bargain all the way down the line right there. All three of those guys ought to have pretty decent opportunities right there. So yeah, I dig it, man. I think that's a great line right there. The guy I'm paying down for this week is and it's you can even access fantasy receipts. You can go back and look through all our shows for the first time ever in my fantasy career. I'm going to say start Kyle Pitts this weekend against Detroit. Against Detroit, I feel like this might be a game where he actually has a breakout, but it's going to be a false breakout. So this is going to be the only time in planetary history that you're going to have a chance to sell high on Kyle Pitts is against the 30th ranked Detroit defense. That's the thing that they're the weakest against. They don't have quick linebackers that can get back in the coverage zone. So I think that they're going to be peppering Kyle Pitts quite a bit. I feel like it's going to be a Kyle Pitts game for the first time ever. I swear to God. I love Kyle Pitts as his metrics. I hated the landing spot.
I mean, London had a nice bounce back week last week, so there's no reason to think it can't be Pitts this week.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So let's get into some full lineups here. I will start with mine real fast, and then we'll talk to your guys because I'm really interested. We always talk about like who do we pay up for, who's our value, but then like I'm wondering like who's your second running back because you build your lineup with these things and then you got to fit these other pegs in with restricted money. So I'll start real quick on DraftKings classic lineup. We talked about it at quarterback. Justin Herbert, 7,500 at Minnesota should be the highest scoring game of the week. No Eckler there to take away his touchdowns. Feels like he should easily go for 20 plus. We're going to rock out Bijan Robinson at 7,800, Atlanta at Detroit. He's been over 20 a game 2 weeks in a row. Decent matchup on turf indoors. Second running back for me this week, 6,200 Kenneth Walker for Seattle. I'm not a big Walker guy, but I'm loving this matchup. They're home against Carolina. No Bryce Young is starting, and Walker, despite not having a great yards per carry, went for 2 touchdowns last week. So I expect him to have another at least 1 touchdown game, if not 2. I talked real quick about my wideouts, but we'll do it again. Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton, all value picks, but they all have decent matchups this week. And, Zay Flowers at this point is the number 1 target in Baltimore. He has been statistically, and Beckham is out. Nico Collins has been lighting it up in Houston so far. He had 30 last week, 7 for 146 and a touchdown. He's got 20 targets through 2 games. I don't see that changing at Jacksonville. They should be down and playing from behind. And then Cortland Sutton, Denver at Miami. Sutton's had 9 for 98 and a touchdown through 2 weeks. They're going to be down a lot of points, I would imagine, at one point, this week, and they'll be throwing. Hunter Henry, 4,100, Patriots at the Jets. Henry so far, along with Kendrick Bourne, have been the two focal points of the offense. He's got a touchdown in each game so far. We talked about Jerome Ford. Other than the fact that the Tennessee run defense has been very good this year so far, I'm loving Ford. He went for 16 and 106 and then another 25 receiving and a touchdown last week. I don't think Hunt will be that relevant this week, but he probably will after that. And then going to go for the second time in 3 weeks for me. I'm taking that Raven defense again. 3,700 home against Indianapolis. The Ravens have some injuries on defense, but the Indianapolis Colts do not have Anthony Richardson this week. I'll be completely freaking honest. I don't even know who the fuck's starting for them at quarterback.
I think it's Gardner Minshew, isn't it?
It's Gardner Minshew.
Yes, I'm a Minshew man.
You know what? Who could possibly have a decent game, but I still expect Baltimore to force some turnovers there. So that's how we're looking on DraftKings. Jeffrey, what do you got?
So you and I are sharing a brain a little bit on a few of these. I already mentioned Kirk Cousins. He's at home versus the Chargers, 7,800 on FanDuel. We're talking about running backs. I went value on both spots in that same game. I went Alexander Madison to have a bounce back, and that's for all the haters out there, for the guy whose job he's going to go to on Monday and get in his face about. So at home versus the Chargers, he's 6,300. In that same game, I get it. They might not necessarily have a ton of rushing yards, but Josh Kelly is still the guy who's behind center or behind Justin Herbert there for the Chargers. So he might get some tosses on the back. He's going to get, for the most part, every carry. He's only 6,100 at Minnesota. When you talk about wide receivers, Nico Collins has been a freaking animal. And we've had him each of the last couple of weeks. And if you listen to us last week, he was only 5,900 on FanDuel. This week, he jumped to 6,900. So they're telling you the value of Nico Collins within 1 week span. And like Joe said, 20 targets, 13 receptions. The guy's just an animal, and obviously seems to be the number one target there in Houston. So 6,900 at Jacksonville. A couple other guys here. I mentioned Tyreek Hill at home versus Denver, 9,600. One of the other guys is you got, from the Minnesota-Jacksonville game, you got Jordan Addison. He's 6,800 at home versus the Chargers. Obviously, Justin Jefferson has gotten a lot of receptions, a lot of yardage, commands a lot of attention. The bottom line is Jefferson has not gotten in the end zone. Addison has gotten there 3 times. I don't see anything changing. At least maybe he gets in there one time because of the attention that Jefferson commands. Joe brought him up. Hunter Henry at the New York Jets. I mean, he is the target, basically, as far as from Patriots standpoint. 5,700, I think, is a value for a guy like that when you compare him to the salary that Kelsey's commanding. Flex, I got Jerome Ford, 5,600 versus the Titans. And then defense-wise, how do you stay away from the Cowboys? They're the number one defense on FanDuel, but they're at Arizona. It's 5,200. I couldn't steer away from them. These guys have been demolishing people and then putting up record numbers of points as a defense. So that's my lineup. Let's do this, Mikey. What do you got?
I expect the Cowboys to do that again. That's a tough break they caught this week, though, with Trayvon Diggs tearing his ACL in practice. My God, that
hurts, man. That really hurts, man. Trayvon Diggs is one of my favorites, even though I don't like the Cowboys. I love me Diggs, so that really did hurt. I'm coming out with Justin Herbert, 8,400. We already talked about him a little bit. My running backs, not really value. I got Kenneth Walker III against that porous Carolina defense, 7,600. Then I got Raheem Mostert at home against Denver for 6,600. I think that he's been putting it up, man. I think he's like the number 2 running back in the league right now. Zay Flowers, 6,300. I couldn't disagree with either one of you guys with that statement. I love Zay Flowers this week. Stephon Diggs, I feel like he's kind of going to be the guy that gets things done against Washington this week. I think last week was a Gabe Davis week. This week will be a Stephon Diggs week. Michael Pittman Jr., I'm a Minshew man, baby. So give me Michael Pittman because I think he's been getting the targets, and I think he'll continue to get the targets, and I think he'll score. And I said it before, and I'll say it again, Kyle Pitts, baby. He's going to score. You heard it here first. So when you guys see with that winning lineup tomorrow and that 0.001% on Kyle Pitts, that was me. That was me. Jordan Addison as my flex, 6,800. Can't argue with Jeff. Love the guy. He's getting the job done as far as the points go. Although he's not getting the volume that Jefferson is seeing, he's still getting about the same points because he's putting the biscuit in the basket. And the defense that I'm going with for finality is the Seahawks at 4,200 at home against Carolina. Need I say more? Like, who's Carolina's best wide receiver? See, I thought so. So I mean,
Thielen, right?
what's that?
Thielen.
Yeah,
Is that
Thielen, I
correct?
believe. Yeah, but
It's probably still Steve Smith Sr., let's be honest, but even though he's not playing, in any case.
yeah, no, but yeah, so I'm liking that Seahawks defense. I think they'll be able to shut down Carolina pretty handily.
Well, there you have it. That is week 3. It's been, it's been a pretty successful 2 weeks so far. I think, I feel like we've been spot on blitz wise. Last week was a good week. And the DFS landscape, I think so far, so good, even though the first couple of weeks are probably the most unpredictable and hardest to DFS. But now we got some injuries. We got some guys that fit into the value slots. We know who we like at the top. And we're ready to win that cheese. So, and then tune in 13 more hours, and we will give you all the starting lineup decisions you need to know heading into 1 p.m. week 3. Mikey, Jeff, what do we got? Anything else?
I just want to say, appreciate everybody. I know there was some spouting off by me and us as far as some points from last week. So I appreciate everybody hanging in until we got to the lineups and everything else. But certainly appreciate everybody tuning in, listening, watching, and we hope to see you tomorrow on the Blitz.
Triple Play Fantasy. See you on the Blitz.